Hello, everyone. Welcome to Travel Tech EMEA second edition. It's a pleasure have this outstanding panel with us today. So welcome to all the panelists. For those that is the first time that you're watching Travel Tech has been created to be the first forum educational event totally for free, where you have the opportunity to listen for the most relevant companies and their CEOs, their vice presidents, their directors. So we're going to have an outstanding panel today. And Travel Tech provides the opportunity to all the attendees to set their comments during the entire session. So during the session, we also will ask your questions and your doubts. And for today, we will have the future of guest communications, how it's going to be, guest experience and reputation management. I will tell again for everybody, or subject for the panel today is the future of guest communications, how it's going to be, guest experience and reputation management. So welcome everyone. I will start presenting this great panel that we have here today. The first one is Danica Smith, Director of Product Engagement and Review Pro. Danica, please, you can introduce yourself and Review Pro. You have 3 to 5 minutes to do it. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hi. Well, thank you very much. I'm so excited to be part of this forum today, and it's super exciting, especially that it's free. So for those of you that don't know us, I'm from Review Pro, and we've been in the industry for over a decade, helping hoteliers and accommodation providers around the world really enhance, improve, understand, dissect, segment their guest experience. And it's really ironic, 10 years on, some of the same messages when we started still apply, the importance of online reputation. So I'm really, really excited to hear what the rest of the panelists are saying and talk about guest communications in the future, but doing what we do best, right? Putting the guest first at all times.
Thank you so much, Danica, for your presentation. We're really happy to have you here today with this great panel that we have here. So let's go for a person that don't need any presentation. Erick Tengen, co-founder of OAKY. Erick, welcome, man. Thank you to be here again. It's great to have you here. So you have 3 to 5 minutes to present yourself and your company, please.
Thank you. I don't think I will use 5 minutes for that. Super happy to be here. It feels like I was here with Chris a year ago or something. And very happy to be here with all of you and spend some good time in budgeting seasons and lockdowns and all of this. This is a very nice break from all of that. For those of you who do not know OAKY yet, we're an Amsterdam-based upselling software company. Work with thousands of hotels across the world, and we just focus on how can we deliver the right type of upsell to the right guest at the right time, and try to make that extremely relevant and smooth for the guests, which result in hopefully a very good guest experience, and that leads to more revenue back to the hotel. That's us in a nutshell. Very happy to be here and looking forward to the panel.
Thank you so much, Erick. Welcome. So let's go with our third participant, that is David Byrne, Director of Sales at AskSuite.
Thanks a lot, Vinicius. And I'll take Erick's 5 minutes plus my minutes. So I've loads to talk about. No, I'm joking. So it's great to be here. I've watched some of the speakers this week, and it's been a great show so far. So thanks for the invite. It's fantastic to be part of such a great panel and great topic, a real hot topic at the moment. So I'm from AskSuite. Greetings from Dublin. That's where I'm based. We're a company that was born in 2018. So we have about 100 employees span across the world. We started our journey into Europe at the start of this year. So we have 8 staff, a mix of sales and customer service. Lots of roles open, so a big recruitment drive going on. Our product it's one product with a multitude of functionality. So it's a chatbot. It's an artificial intelligence chatbot to basically aid the hotels with pre-stay on the website. So it's integrated with all social media, with most social media platforms, which are the main ones for use of interacting with a hotel, which is Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and coming on board as Google My Business. So our clients span all across the world. And we're just really happy to be here and get involved in this topic and give our views. So thank you again.
Thank you, David. Welcome to Travel Tech. Nice to have you here. Let's go for the next person, Deepak. Deepak, if I tell wrong your surname, I'm sorry. I will try to do my best. Mavinkurve, I think it's correct. If not, you tell me, please. So Deepak Mavinkurve, founder and CEO of KePSLA. So please, Deepak, it's all yours. Thank you. Welcome to be here.
Thank you. First of all, sorry, I was trying to get in a little while earlier and there seemed to be some audio issue, so I had to change my audio set, and I hope I'm clear now. So to ensure that you don't get tongue twisted with my surname, I just put my first name there. So Deepak's good enough.
I'm not worried. No, I'm not. I just don't want to spell it wrong. That's all.
No, that's fine. And it's a great beginning to a conversation when I meet people, because it's a very unique surname. There aren't many people in the world with that surname. So I don't want to lose my five minutes. Let me go quickly to tell you who we are and what we do. So interestingly, KePSLA was kind of inspired by a beautiful book I read, I guess somewhere in 2012-13 by a gentleman called Christian Rudder, who was the co-founder of one of the first dating sites in the world called OKCupid. So OKCupid later on went on to set standards for the Tinders of the world, etc. So he, in that book, he beautifully kind of writes about how he puts mathematical models to get two people to meet. So I was trying to correlate that to something that I know very well, which is how can I get the hotels to meet their customers, and what kind of mathematical models can we use to get that done? So that kind of set me thinking at a time, when we were in 2014-15, one of the big conversations around the world that was happening was what is the value that the OTA is adding to the hotel, apart from taking that 25-30% of the ticket size on commissions, and while they were just filling up, let's say 60-65% of the rooms. So was there an opportunity to support the hotels and help them to kind of get and fill up those balance 30-40% of the rooms using technology? And that's how we started KePSLA. Of course, we've done many things now, and we are kindly in a different kind of a role right now. But KePSLA is not inspired by Tesla, and KePSLA is an acronym for key performance scores and lexical analysis. So we are a lexical analysis company. That's about us. We're about 18 people. We are about 3,000 paying customers and in 44 countries.
Thank you so much, Deepak, for your introduction. Let's go to the next person. That is Ramona Cioba, Sales and Customer Success Manager at iTranslate. Ramona, it's your turn.
Hi everyone. Thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here with you. So my name is Ramona. I'm the Sales and Customer Success Manager at iTranslate. And very excited to be here. Actually, it's the first time I'm presenting, so very exciting for me. Right, so iTranslate is basically a division of the IAC applications group. It is the same group as Tinder or Investopedia. I guess everybody knows Tinder better, right? We are based in Graz in Austria, and we also have offices in New York. The company started some 10 years ago, so we are quite a bit out there in the market with different consumer apps for translation. And we started with translating between 100 languages, literally supporting text translation, voice, camera translation, and also object recognition. Since we actually counted already with the technology and the translation capabilities from the application or the mobile applications, 2 years ago, iTranslate also launched a real-time translation API for businesses. So focusing a little bit more on the API. So the API supports text translation for 56 languages in real time. And we have the focus on user-generated content. So basically, It is designed for fast translation of text strings, and particularly it is up for conversational use cases. For example, any company that has a chat can simply integrate our application and allow its users to get messages instantly translated. It can also be used to automatically translate reviews of any kind, comments, or even for the booking requests. At this point, we are market leaders in independent translation consumer apps with over 200 million downloads from users all over the world. So basically our aim at iTranslate is to enable travelers, guests, hosts, employers, members of staff to write and to speak in over 100 languages anywhere in the world. And maybe one day we can break this way the language barriers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ramona, for the very interesting presentation about iTranslate. They're new here in Travel Tech, but it's a great solution for the entire tourism and trade and hotels and the companies, tech companies and everything. So welcome, everybody. I'm really happy to have you here. For all the people that listen to us at the moment, I just would like to remind that you can access traveltechspace.com or traveltech.space. You can check the entire agenda. Today is our last forum of Travel Tech, and tomorrow we're going to have the entire day of presentations, software presentations from 10 a.m. Central European time till the end of the day. So you can check on our agenda for that. So you have the photos. If you want to watch the photos for this week's or other photos during this year or last year, you'll be able to do it through our website also. Besides of Travel Tech, I would like to also say a little bit thing, if the panelists let me. We have created the first academy totally free of charge for the persons that want to have a masterclass of 2 hours with, for example, the COO of Review Pro, with Danica here. Danica already, she gives a masterclass on traveltechacademy.com, where you'll be able to be with Danica for 2 hours. After that, you have a test online. If you get the 70% of that test, you're going to have an official certification from Travel Tech and Review Pro together. We're the first company doing that in the world, and we're the unique one doing masterclass with different companies. If they're sponsors or not, they can join us to provide knowledge all over the globe in 3 different languages, not only English. We need to remind that Travel Tech, we have 5 Travel Techs per year. So next year we'll start the first week of March with US and Canada. On May, we're going to have Brazil and Portugal again. And we will have also in July, APAC, September, Latin and Spain, and the end of the year, again, we close the year always with EMEA. So just to let you know, for everybody, we till before start Travel Tech EMEA, only this year we already impact on more than 28,000 persons with Travel Tech forums. We impact more than 127 countries all over the world, and we impact one thing that was very important doing an event for all the Spanish speakers, because even maybe we don't know, but even in Asia Pacific, you have countries that speak Spanish. Just to let you know, there's small islands, but they have. So it's very nice, and thank you so much for all the attendance and all the success we're having. Till today already, we already got more than 6,000 people that already attend Travel Tech on the last 2 days. So let's see how we'll close today. And tomorrow, the entire day, the presentations. So, and don't forget to send all your questions, all your doubts directly on our chat or Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Most of everybody see us on YouTube. We know that. So you just put your questions there, and I will do those questions during the entire session or at the end. So it's the unique place. Also, you have the chance to interact, do your questions, and have those such great professionals here to answer it. So let's start today. I will remind the subject of our forum today is the future of guest communications, how it's going to be, guest experience, and reputation management. So welcome, everyone. We will start with Danica Smith, Director at Review Pro. So, Danica, the expectations of guests following the pandemic have evolved. Give me 1 second here. Great. Sorry, I will do it again. I miss up here on my notes. Sorry. The expectations of guests following the pandemic have evolved. How can hoteliers keep up to speed with this change? I will repeat the question. The expectations of guests following the pandemic have evolved. How can hoteliers keep up to speed with this change? Danica, all yours.
Ooh, I get goosebumps when I talk about this topic because, it's on everyone's minds. So I think what's the most important thing for hoteliers and accommodation providers is flexibility, right? The environment we're in is changing so quickly around the world. So you've got to make sure that your processes, your strategies, everything that you have in place is flexible and can adapt quickly. So I just want to set the scene, because obviously at RevuPro, we work with over 65,000 hotels around the world, and we sit on a lot of data. So I thought, let me bring some data for today's questions. So we have a sample account of 12,541 hotels, broad range of segment, different resorts, independent chains from globally. So if we look at that sample of 12,500 hotels and we look at what's happening with the guest experience, right? So at RevuPro, we track 174 review sources and we put them into an algorithm called the Global Review Index. So that's really the industry's benchmark for online reputation. What are people saying about my hotel? So if we look at Q3, 2019, representing pre-COVID, Q3 2020 representing during COVID, and Q3 2021 post-COVID, let's have a look at what's happened with the trends. So if we look at the GRI, so online reputation, how are those hotels performing? From 2019, the global review index for those 12,500 hotels was 85.5%. If we look in same period, 2020, it decreased to 83.2. And in today, Q3 21, it's gone back up to 83.4. So we're still at 2.4% decrease from this time, 2019. So what does that mean? Our guests are less satisfied. Okay, so that's a global trend. We see this. We look at review volume. Review volume 2019 pre-COVID was 5.3 million in this sample size. Today it stands at 3.8 million for these 12,000 hotels. Semantics also down in terms of positive mentions, down. When you break that down by categories, staff, room, F&B, cleanliness, everything's down. So as a hotelier, what do I need to do to be able to evolve and keep up with the new needs of the new guests? Flexibility. For example, a lot of our clients have done really well with with setting successful management response strategies. So what you were doing in 2019 in terms of, let's say, responding to reviews, you have to ask yourself, is that still applicable in 2021, especially when so many of our hotels have less staff, less resource, and less time? We know that guest needs, guest behaviors, guest trends are changing. You know, we saw during COVID, they were really obviously keen on hygiene, safety, protocols were coming through in the semantics of online reviews. And what we're seeing now in 2021 is actually there's a real upward trend towards sustainability, towards staff. How do hotels care about their staff? So it's a really difficult world for hoteliers and accommodation providers to operate. So it's important that you constantly measure guest satisfaction to drive the guest experience forward. And you need to widen your channels. It's no longer just about post-stay, you know, it's throughout the guest journey. So how can you really adapt and ensure guest satisfaction pre-stay, in-stay, and post-stay? But ultimately, yes, the world has changed dramatically. Yes, guest behaviors have changed. Yes, technology, you know, advancements. We've just launched our own chatbot and with AI, the world has changed. But for a hotelier and accommodation provider, the objective is exactly the same as it was 10 years ago, 2 years ago, and will be in 5 years' time. And that is, how do I make sure my guests leave my property satisfied and happy? And that's what it's always about, keeping that goal in mind and making sure you adapt and evolve to make sure guest experience remains at the core of your business. So hopefully that answers that question for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the interesting response. I would like to know if Erick, Chris, Deepak, David, Ramona have something to say or want to add something.
I can add one thing. It's interesting what you say about sustainability, Danica. It's like also a thing for any type of company at the moment. Hugely important thing for talent to join businesses. And equally so, I would then say for hoteliers to attract guests. What we see as a small trend, it's not big, but it's a small thing that that hoteliers, it's a real win-win, I think, is we have a partnership with this company called Hotels for Trees. And what hotels then do is they say, turn down your housekeeping before arrival, and we will plant a tree for every night you turn down your housekeeping. And it's then a win-win,
Nice.
right? There's a tree planted that you can follow and make sure that it is. You won't get a video of the actual tree, but there's a stat, so you would have to trust that, I suppose. But also there is a decrease in cost. Because here in Amsterdam, there's such a big problem with staff that we have many hoteliers who cannot, like now they wouldn't be able to, but they couldn't sell out over a certain occupancy because they didn't have the staff to clean the rooms. So it's a massive problem with skeleton crew. That's what I will try to bring that message in a bit later, but this is like a win-win that solves that part and the sustainability, at least with relation to upselling, that I can think of.
Thank you so much, Erick. Deepak, Chris?
Yeah, I think, Vinny, I think Danica's got it right. I think there's a lot of very valuable stuff that's been saying that we're seeing very similar. I think flexibility is absolutely key. I think the key thing for me is that all the rules have changed, particularly around reputation management. From where we were 2 years ago to where we are now, we're just seeing with so many of our clients across the world that they're changing all of their processes. The data that they had prior to COVID, it was illustrative then, but it's certainly not as relevant today as it was then. There are other areas that are more important. I think that guest expectations have changed significantly. They're looking for safety, they're looking for security. And I think the other part about this is that there is such incredible competition for those people who are traveling that everybody is going to the reputation and they're looking there first to make the decisions. So it's become a far more competitive environment. And as a result, it's driven the importance of reputation even higher than it was before amongst all the hoteliers. And it's become it's not a nice to have anymore. It's an absolute necessity now if you're going to get any guests walking in through your doors.
Awesome. Great. Danica, do you want to say something else? Or
Well, I was just going to say, like what Chris says, and it's so ironic for us because this was the message we were saying 10 years ago, right? You need to know what's happening on TripAdvisor, Google. And here I am 10 years on saying the exact same message, you know? So whilst everything changes, nothing changes at the same time.
That's the one thing that one of the motivations to create Travel Tech was that point. And that point happens, and all that is technology with hoteliers. Sometimes it's tough. They still see us as a cost, and it's wrong. We are not a cost. Without us, they cannot get more revenue again, because all the softwares that we have, even if there's a PMS or even any of those, we can have even control if their condition is working or not. But everything is to make their lives easier, spend less, and get more money. However, it's very difficult sometimes for hoteliers to understand that message. Just one point. Eddie, go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, maybe Chris or Danica, for either of you survey experts. So Danica, the data shows, okay, we have less travel because there are less volume of surveys, and guests are less satisfied. Do you think it's because guests traveled less last year and they, for that reason, had higher expectations than they used to?
Yeah, and I think the guest threshold of happiness, of how difficult it is to travel, you know, we were all in lockdown for 18 months. So the first time I get to go in a hotel, I have to go to the airport, I have to take a PCR test, I have to queue, I have to wear a mask. So when I arrive at that hotel, my tolerance or patience as a guest is a lot lower than what it was 2019, whilst my expectations, because I've been locked in a house with 2 toddlers, are really high. So it's really difficult for hoteliers to manage that. And that's where I think we're talking about this, but that's where communication is so important with your online management response. Communicate to guests. Tell me that I don't have your restaurant is closed before I arrive, as opposed to me arriving hungry and you telling me because of COVID the restaurant's closed, you know? And it's really important that, yes, guests have become more demanding and expectations are higher, but hoteliers can still manage it and still wow and delight and surprise them at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the hotels have to start again to some degree in all areas. And a really good example is when the first lockdown lifted. I myself was in a major resort here in Ireland, which usually attracts the overseas guests. They were not used to having 100% Irish guests in the hotel who do not want to see the local attractions, who just want to sit and enjoy the leisure facilities, the bar, the restaurant, and as a result, it put the hotel under extreme pressure, which led to bad reviews, which they hadn't experienced before. And even at Ask Suite now, we put a lot of development into key integrations with review companies, so that when the guest is on the chatbot itself, while the chatbot is trying to look for the information that they've asked for, we then automatically bring in a review to not just keep, so there's no lag in the system, but also to keep the guest getting automated information about the hotel. And we all know they're making their decisions, you know, based on pre-stay information. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Thank you so much, David, for your here. Yes.
I just wanted to add one thing.
Please, Ramona. Sorry.
Danica.
Wants you to say something. Just say like this. Like I all see in the camera. I'm always watching.
No, don't worry. I'm sorry. It's just great to listen to all of you. So the last but not least. So I wait. It's all good. It's for Danica. You said flexibility, which definitely is crucial. But I think it is also the matter of adaptability a little bit, because the thing is, we were saying that 10 years ago, all the multi-channels for reviews were very important, and we were freaking out a little bit because we didn't know how to put them all together, look at them on time, respond at them on time, how to respond. Because that was, I remember also a topic, you know, do we respond to the good ones, bad ones? They were, you know, how do you do it? And is it still, are we on time? We don't see it on time. It is also the content what I think that changed from 10 years ago at what it is today. The content of the reviews itself, the guests, I think they are a lot more focusing on very different things nowadays, like what you're saying about
health, safety.
Exactly. COVID made that now security is a point, but health is probably one of the things that you can see in absolutely hygiene. Health, it's in every single review, and I think that is also a point where hoteliers should not get scared, but eventually really adapt to it. And as I'm saying, and that's why we are here, to offer that part of technology that makes it easier and quicker and easier in the sense of getting.
I think it's really important, and I'm sure the rest of the panel will agree with me, like a big shout out to the hoteliers today in today's world. I mean, I'm an ex-hotelier, many of us are, and I mean, the way that I'm so proud to be part of this industry, because the way that we have, you know, and hospitality has a reputation for being quite slow, but actually if you look at how people responded to COVID, both operationally, strategically, whether that's revenue or in the hotels putting the screens up, like, well done. And I mean, and, you know, and with such creativity and braveness. So I think it's a very, very difficult time to be a hotelier. And I just want to say that we never underestimate that as technology suppliers, you know. And I think I just wanted to say a big round of applause to every hotelier out there, and to know that perhaps the next year in terms of rising costs and staff shortages is also going to be tough. So I just wanted to say well done to all the hoteliers. It's very easy for us to give advice, but we're not the ones icons on the floor having to be adaptable or flexible, or so I think that's really important that they get a shout out today.
Yeah,
True.
I'd echo that as well. I think Eric, if you remember last year, one of the big topics that we were talking about was that the hoteliers were given the situation and where we were then, they were compelled to adapt and to innovate really, really quickly, because that's the way everything was moving, all, to online. The technology was becoming even more crucial. And I think you're right. I think that all of the hoteliers have really stood up and adapted very quickly and started to do that. And it's great, because I think it's great for our industry. I think it's great for the managing the expectations of the guests and being able to communicate and do that. And I guess, like you've said, with all the staff shortages, it just makes things far more efficient. So I agree with that. Yeah.
Awesome, great. Before I go to the next question, thank you so much for all the discussion. It was outstanding. That's good. That's good about travel tech. Love it. So I would like to thanks to David, Nathan, that is watching us from Kuala Lumpur. Welcome. I will to say welcome to Paula Garreirão. She was moderating in the morning. She got more than 2,200 persons in attendance, and just her photo today. So let's see how it's going to be yours at the end. So welcome, Paula. Thank you to be here. And we have another message from Idoia. So awesome to be here, and love the comments and the speakers. So let's continue. Right now, I remind the public, if you would like to set any question, any doubt, please do it. Just write down on your chat on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube, and I will read it. Everybody here will read it, and will be able to answer you. Don't let to do this at the end of the session, because at the end of the session, if we have a lot of questions, maybe we don't have the time to answer it. Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's go to the next question. The next person is Erick Tengen, CEO and founder at OAKY. Erick, the question for you is, how are hotels using guest communications to drive both GX and revenue? I will repeat the question. How are hotels using guest communication to drive both GX and revenue? All yours. Thank you to be here.
For those who don't wonder what the heck is GX, that's the guest experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, like okay, I will to make this like a segue, I will add on to what Danica was talking about. And then when I think of the industry and what I think will probably remain after we're hopefully out of all of this, is that there will have been a shift towards more technology-based hotels, meaning that there has been more automation, meaning that skeleton crews are likely to remain. That's what I think. And now, maybe before all of that automation has happened, I think there is a wise hotelier and also a wise entrepreneur in the hotel tech industry. I don't think of it like there is a post-pandemic. There is like the right here and now that we are, and this is a totally different world. I can see it for myself. I'm budgeting right now. Certain lead sources that were super effective for us in the past are all of a sudden not generating anything. It's like a whole new world. And for hoteliers, it's very, very much the same. And this always presents opportunities, and that's what I love about it. Any situation does, no matter how you see it. And when you look at the communication, when we have less staff to be able to be there and do all of the things that we had to do before, there's a really nice opportunity to try to automate processes that you maybe don't necessarily have to do manually, and be more nuanced in the way that you communicate with your guests online. And that's where I feel like automated messaging and upselling and also other services come in so super, super handy. So what we see when we think of upselling and communication goes so well hand in hand, it's basically, you can look at it in 3 touch points across the journey. The first one is when the guest is making a reservation. So right after the guest has made a reservation, you can upsell. And I believe one best practice is not to do this in the booking engine, because you want to drive the direct booking as fast as possible, but actually do it perhaps in thank you page, or like RevuPro and AskSuite are delivering, which is a chatbot. If there are any questions or anything at all, you can actually integrate upselling into your chatbot. So when they ask, do you have a parking, you're actually offering that upsell offer right in the chat, which is another touch point. And what the interesting thing is, you all of a sudden are upselling digitally on an inbound question. Then we come to the pre-arrival stage. And here we see something very interesting. Depending on where the guest is in the journey, different channels have different effectiveness. The further out you are from the arrival, the more effective pre-arrival emails are. But the closer you are to check-in, the more effective WhatsApp or text message becomes. And to get even more nuanced, I'm very passionate and interested in psychology. So I just wanted to bring a psychology anecdote here. If you weren't aware of this, there are many like biases that we have in our mind. We take a lot of decisions from using our subconscious because we have to make, believe it or not, 35,000 decisions every day as a human being. And we cannot do all of those because we only have one brain. So we're using a lot of shortcuts to make decisions fast. And there is one bias, which is called decision-making fatigue. And I will share one really interesting study that was made on this. So in the US, there was a study made on judges. So judges were sitting and prisoners were coming up to them and they were about to get a parole or not get a parole. So basically get left out of prison. The prisoners that came in the morning when the judges were very energized and excited, they typically got the parole. And then as they got closer and closer to lunch and the judges got more and more tired, no one was getting a parole anymore. And then after lunch, when the judges had re-energized and were happy and pumped again and like ready to make decisions, they were giving parole. And then closer you got to the afternoon, nobody was getting a parole. And the correlation is almost exact to upselling, because you want to upsell to guests when they are willing to make difficult decisions. And upselling is always the most effective if you do it outbound, early in the morning or after lunch. So no matter what upsell solution you use, that's when you should do the upselling. It's always the most effective. And when you think about upselling, it's always like this. Like you should combine the goals of the hotel with trying to proactively think about what are the needs of my guests, depending on where they are in the journey, and then try to offer that proactively outbound or digitally by having the opportunity for them to ask something inbound, such as with the chatbot. And this translates through the customer journey. You can do the same at the front desk and the same during the hotel stay. But all in all, what you then create is, and what I love about what the pandemic has brought us is that it has turned a lot of hoteliers from thinking that you just upsell 5 deals to all of my guests and hope for the best, to changing their mind and saying, no, I have to communicate to the right guest on the right channel. And depending on where they are in the journey, they have different needs. I need to have different content that I'm sending to them. I need to have different upsell offers that I'm sending to them. So this whole level of personalization that I think has been a topic since I started be on this entrepreneurship journey 8 years ago is finally kind of coming to fruition. And that I think is extremely, extremely interesting. And one more thing that I just want to finalize this with is like that I think it also opens up a way for hoteliers to create new business opportunities. And this is coming from one example in Germany. So what we see now is that hoteliers have to compete very much on rates. And what this hotel chain in question wants to do by changing their business model and using upselling as a point for it is they want to basically create as naked rates as possible, almost completely debundling all of their services in the hotel. So you're going to pay for, at least you're going to pay for good Wi-Fi. You're going to listen to this. You're going to pay for housekeeping. So this is not about turning down housekeeping. This is if you want housekeeping, you will pay extra for it, and all these other types of services. And this would never be possible if you didn't have automated communication and upselling in symbiosis. And then some people say, wow, I have to pay for all of these things. But I think it makes a lot of sense, even in luxury hotels, because if I have, let's say I have a very good month and I'm earning a lot of money and I can afford myself to go to something like a Shangri-La, I'm still, even though I'm willing to pay that ADR, I don't have the same budget like the person next to me, this lady that maybe has millions and millions and millions. So we're staying in the same hotel, but we're not willing to necessarily pay for the same thing. So I think you're in this competitive landscape, communication and upselling can really tie into so many types of benefits, and that becomes really interesting. And thankfully, we can work with tons and tons of really exciting hoteliers who are kind of driving this forward and who we can take it forward together with.
Thank you so much, Eric. Really great point there in everything you said. Paula Garrido also saying here a great point. So awesome. Thank you, Paula, to join us. And we have also Paula da Silva that brings something that's really true. People trust on reviews more than or their relativities. Review are even more important now. Myself, if I need to go to any hotel, the first thing I will check is the comments. It's the first thing. If I see that they have 1,000 reviews and they have, I don't know, 5 really bad and the others is awesome, so I understand clearly those 5 person has something that happens or not, or just a hysterical person that can happen also. So I use groups. I think reviews is really, really, really important. Always was, but I think right now is even everything already started like 6 months ago, coming to the normal, saying in some way, all over the world. And I think reviews for them right now, and see for those persons that already passed through the pandemic and see those reviews, I think it's very important. Even when this finish, will be very important also, as always. That's the only thing I want to say. So thank you, Paula Cioba. And I don't know, David, you want to say something? Danica, Chris, Ramona, Deepak, that is the time. You can start, Danica.
I've always got something to say.
Ladies first.
Okay, thank you. I think it's really interesting when we talk about revenue and guest experience and what that looks like in the future. But it's so imperative that ops are included in those conversations around the board table. You know, it can't be commercial managers leading the initiatives, because I can have the best chatbot, the best AI, the best upselling strategy pre-stay. But at the end of the day, if my housekeeper doesn't know to deliver the rose petals accordingly to guest 1, 2, 3, it's going to fail and I'm going to get a negative TripAdvisor review. So it's really, really imperative that you always have operations and your workflows, your processes. You know, we have case management at RevuePro to make sure that all of those cool, exciting revenue initiatives are driven by operational excellence. And that's what's going to improve the guest experience. So yeah, I think if you're looking into sort of upselling and revenue and looking at guest communication pre-stay and the really cool things you can do there, you really need to think about, okay, what does this look in the context of in-stay? And for me at RevuePro, when I'm talking to our clients, I always use my housekeeper and maintenance manager, right? They're my benchmarks. How's my maintenance manager going to be able to fix the shower when the guest tells me it's broken on WhatsApp? How's my housekeeper going to be able to deliver the towels on WeChat when somebody sends an inbound message? And you need to think of that strategy from start to finish. And that's where guest experience, whether you're talking about revenue or upsell, you always need to lead and end on the guest experience and making sure throughout the guest journey, that's at the core of everything. And I think that's really imperative when looking at revenue. And that's what we work with OAKY for that. And that's about getting your partners as a hotelier, getting your technology partners to work together in order, what OAKY do best is the upselling, what we do best is guest experience. So bring them together and you're going to have the best package. And that's key for hoteliers today.
Clear. Deepak, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
Yeah, couple of points. So Eric, the concept of kind of breaking down services and like somewhat like a low-cost carrier does with an airline is a concept that's coming up, and that's a very interesting concept. So I look forward to seeing how hotels will kind of catch up with that. So that's very interesting. But the point that I wanted to comment on was I don't know, we all are from, in some sense, the same fraternity, and what we drive with the hotel is, hey, you should get good reviews, and everything should be 4 on 5 or 5 on 5 or 10 on 10, and that's what's going to make your hotel do well in the eyes of your customer. And if you see that to be the way that you're driving your hotel, to just focus on those scores and nothing more than that, I think in some sense you're not doing justice to the job that the customer is telling you so many more things in the review. So we keep telling our customers, yes, it's good to get a 5 on 5 or a 4 on 5 and people to say nice things, but it is also good for you to get criticism on the review. And I think a discerning customer who is going to come to you is not just going to look at, oh, I've got 99 good reviews and 1 bad review, but if I have 10 bad reviews, what have I done as a business to resolve that to the customer? And as long as you're able to communicate that with your TripAdvisor, where there is a reply that happens, or with any other site where the reply that happens, I think you've still not lost much. Of course, it's good to get a good review, but I don't want us to keep telling the hotel that, hey, every review has to be good. It can't be. You're human. Our hotels will make mistakes. That's fine, is what I think.
Thank you, Deepak. I just want to come over to a point, the upselling that Erick told us, that is very important for hotels. But the hotels need to understand, when we talk about upselling, we are not selling upselling only, for example, a full board or a wine. We're doing upselling on everything, So if the hotel, you want a champagne, you use the upselling tool for that. If you, I don't know, you can sell your, I don't remember how to say in English, when you put the thing on when you go out.
Bathrobe. The bathrobe.
Bathrobe, okay.
Bathrobe.
That's
yeah.
it.
I think, I don't know if you're referring.
No, it is.
So in that point, you can also, if you want to sell, I'm a Hilton, I want to sell because we have people that want to buy it. They taste, they like it. I was one time in Hilton Cancun. I'll use one of those. Said, no, I want to buy it. I go to the reception. I buy directly under the receptionist. But I need to ask, because what's so fulfilling? So I said, wow, this is, I don't like that. But sometimes you go to hotels and you don't find what you find in hotels. Sometimes it's not on the B2C side that as a public, the regular public, I can have access. Sometimes that happens. Mm-hmm. And the other point of the upselling that's really, really important to be used also for the spa. But if you can use an upselling tool, if you have, for example, I don't know, I'm on Tenerife and I want to go, I don't know, surfing or any other sport. Or even if I'm in the city, I want to go to the skate park. You can sell under the upselling the skate park. You can sell, so you can sell everything. You just need to make, so you can turn your hotel like a travel agency for the region, just with the upselling. You make money on that. You don't will need to explain nothing for the customer. They will receive everything he buys. He will have all the information on the tool. So hoteliers and people rarely they think, but this is only for resorts. Or if I'm on some beach that I can be there and it's very leisure stuff. No, you can. If you do it in the corporate, you're going to sell even more, because the corporate, a city as São Paulo, as London, people using 4 or 5 stars hotels, they consume. Sometimes they get really tired for the entire day. The only thing they want to do is or a whiskey or a bottle of wine, a dinner something, and go to and they do that in the hotel if you provide that service. And even if you can buy the service before, because the upselling is not only during the stay, it's when they go out of the stay, the upselling can continue following that, and before the stay, the same thing. When they do a reservation to a booking engine, when the booking engine say the reservation, there you can set the link for your upselling tool. Even if it's not at the hotel, they already can buy. They can choose the dates for that. So it's the upselling, the scale of the upselling is too big. So don't think small. Every time you try to think something, even if you think it's stupid, think it. It's important to think stupid things. Because
Vinches, you are hired. You are hired.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Erick.
We can talk about it. Don't worry. Call me. Thank you, Erick. Thank you, everybody.
I think
Somebody
there's,
else want to say something?
No,
there's
just
one other point to the
sorry.
Point that Erick made that was interesting about the goals within the hotel themselves. And, you know, ultimately, from all of our point of view, we're providing some software, we're providing a communication tool or reputation tool, etc. But when you go inside the hotel and behind and have a look at behind the scenes, sometimes we have to study that even more so when we're presenting the product. So, for example, you know, you've got a pre-stay team, you've got an in-stay team, and ultimately, from our point of view, we'd love if they were two different departments being managed separately to look at the experience from the guest point of view. But we what's interesting is that we're all here presenting these communication tools, and once you step inside and see it, so we've actually engaged now with, you've got these multi-channels. So I mentioned in my introduction about selling across, being able to interact and communicate across social media. So you've got Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all these messages coming into the hotel. So what we do is we've moved them into what's called the Omnichannel experience. And it's just making life a little bit more easier for the hotel to be able to collaborate all the communication coming into one place so they can handle that from a staff point of view, because the ongoing issue, which I don't think will change quite quickly, is the staff shortages. So
Thank you, David. We have a question here. I want to set it up if you let me. Chris, you want to say? We'll go with the Chris first. Huh?
I wanted to just reiterate, Vinny, what you said. Sorry, that I think for many guests who travel, particularly if it's their first time or they haven't been there before, all of those upsell opportunities and those, you know, restaurants or those activities or those other facilities, etc., actually play a big part in enhancing the whole trip and the experience and the stay, because it helps those guests to really experience some of the things that perhaps they wouldn't otherwise experience because they didn't know about it, particularly if you're there on business or you have someone else along with you or you're not there for very long. It helps you to just make a decision about what you're going to do while you're there. So I think whilst a lot of the hoteliers may feel that it's a little bit overboard, I think the more opportunities and offers that you can present for the guest, so that they have some choices about what they're going to do and how they're going to spend their time and not miss out on that because they didn't hear about it. I think it's actually a value add service, on top of all of what you've said. Yes.
True. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get hired here as well.
I'm always the last one, but I do have something to say. It's actually very related to what Chris was saying. I quite very much liked the idea of Erick with looking at the whole customer journey, the guest journey, not really only when it's staying, but at the same time, during all this way and traveling of the client, it is also important to really know what to give it as per their needs. But at the same time, sometimes we should create that need in somehow. Meaning that, not only looking at the client or the guest and say, okay, it may need this because the guest did the other thing with us, so it might need the other one. But perhaps also kind of think, we have this is a little bit the persona, this is what experience with us, so we just created a need for them. And of course, definitely we all need these channels and these integrations in order to make it happen. Again, quick and always to be there.
Thank you. Deepak, you want to say something? If no, I go with the question from the public.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, awesome. So I'll move forward. We have here Revamp, Hotel Technologies, one of our sponsors, doing a question here: how to use automate upsell in a high-end luxury hotel where complete personalization is key?
Yeah, I would love just a quick.
It's for you.
Yeah.
It's for you.
No, but I understand the question, because some people, maybe rightfully so, you think if you have too much automation, you're losing out on personalization. And that is maybe especially key in high-end luxury. But we work with many high-end luxury chains. One of them is actually Shangri-La. And well, first of all, what a high-end luxury chain will do maybe differently to a more budget chain is they will set it up way more personalized. They will have full segmentation down to rate code structures. They will have translations to 30, 40 languages, and they will make sure that it's very thoughtful in the way they communicate to their guests and the upsells that they offer. So there's no like one size fits all here. It's very thoughtful. What about the guest experience then? So we have heard a really funny anecdote where the general manager chatted to one of my colleagues, and then there was a repeat guest, who had been using OAKY with upselling a couple of times. Then he arrived back at the hotel. I think it was very close to another checkout. That's why he didn't receive another email, because we have this spam filter. And he didn't receive the email, and he was actually he wasn't really upset, but he was asking the front desk, "Where is my pre-stay upsell email? I love doing all my personalization that way." Nice. And this is just someone who, like, I think it's a great example. A luxury guest with huge expectations, just loves the what do you always call it? Like the ease of use, the smooth experience of being able to do the same thing that he could otherwise do at the front desk. He can just now do from the couch or from the airport. So there you have it. I think looking at the results, honestly, I think it works even better in luxury potentially than in other areas.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Erick, just a question if I can ask you, related to what you were saying, right? While a lot of what we do ends up with, personalization that happens with algorithms working in the back end, where you're coming up with, what may be right and wrong for customers, there is a human element that was so very important in hotels, not when there was so much automation, but years back. And I know hotels like, for example, the Oberois in India have this amazing skill where each of the employees got their ears and eyes open all the time, and they are talking personalization, not coming out of a system, but coming out of what they've seen and heard. So do tools like you, are they able to kind of bridge these two things, that there is a feedback that the employee is giving, and then the customer in some sense, and if you can marry those two, would that help your hotels?
Let's see how I answer this as briefly as possible. OAKY on its own will be able to personalize to the extent of the data it receives. So the PMS data, maybe other types of data, whatever segments you're able to create. But there is always that limitation, right? If OAKY doesn't know who it's sending something to, how can it personalize it? That said, if you're a hotel in India, where we happen to have 350 hotels, it's a pretty big market for us, and you're going live with OAKY, we can look at the other hotels in the area that might have similar segments coming to stay with you, and we can say, if you upsell this in this way with this and this content, we can pretty accurately forecast how much revenue you will bring if you sell a certain set of deals for certain types of pricing. So that's always the benefit that we can bring, and I'm sure any other tech vendor also brings to the table. That's the benefit of software as a solution. However, we also integrate to customer like CRM platforms and customer data platforms, and they of course sit on way more data around the guests, sometimes 200 to 250 touch points or data points. And that can also be shared with OAKY. And then you can get extremely personalized, because then the more data we have in combination with all of that knowledge around what works. But to your point, the very knowledgeable employee in the hotel would need to insert it somewhere in a data system for the online tool of any kind to make use of it. There's no telepathy transfer yet.
I have a point here that I would like to add regarding automation in the luxury segment. And it comes back to my first point. It's all about, flexibility. So what we say at RevuPro is, we've invested, being a data company, we've invested heavily in the performance and analytics pages. So with our chatbot and AI, you can implement it. Exactly within 24 hours, has it impacted your NPS, your GRI, different trigger points throughout the guest journey and temperature checks. Yes, no, switch it off. So we do guest messaging where chatbot's one component, but you can switch it off if it's not for you. You might want to switch it on in your hours where your receptionist at head or your reservations team only work 9 to 5. So I think it's important when you look at strategies and technology in terms of guest communication, it's not this or that. It's like, let's try it at one property, let's see, let's review, let's amend, let's adapt, let's keep going. And that cycle never ends. So we really need to help hoteliers, like, you know, you don't have to jump straight into this super cool, super slick revenue driven initiative. It's like you can start off small and make sure that you can go back to your owners, right? Because that's what it's usually, the owners that are like, no, that we don't do AI at this brand, and show them and let the results speak for itself. And that's important, that you've got that visibility of how is it improving the guest experience, how much money is it making, and you know, you've got those different temperature checks throughout that trial. And then you can make that decision really confidently and let the data speak for itself.
Thank you so much, Danica. I would like to say hello to Alan Young from Ontario, Canada, is watching us here. So hello, Alan, welcome. Hello, everybody. I just remind everybody that we have still have 4 more questions. I will focus on those. For the public, if you are there, you have a question, you have any doubt, please set it up on the chat at Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. I will receive it here, and we will move forward. And so welcome also to the Woo Factor from Milan, Italy. Welcome to be here. Thank you. So let's move to the next question. The next question is for David Byrne, Director of Sales EMEA for Ask Suite. Welcome, David. The question for you is, what challenge face guests during the pre-booking stage? I'm going to repeat the question for our audience. So what challenges face guests during the pre-booking stage? All to you.
Where do I start? So so
that is a huge and massive question. So you can start with the first point. Go ahead, David.
That's okay. And yeah, I'm glad to answer it. And this goes way back pre-pandemic. Those issues, those pain points for the guests are still there. I suppose I'll start with creating the picture, if you like. I mean, a hotel goes to a huge amount of work and investment in creating a beautiful website. They've attracted you as a potential guest. You've chosen the hotel, and then the next stage is to engage. And once you engage, that's where the pain points start to increase, and that's where the potential guest will make a choice on whether to continue or switch and look at a different hotel. And that's a really key point. So I think the challenges from a pre-stay perspective is that if you engage by email, by phone, you're looking at no answer, delayed answer, automated answer, no communication via social media. Why? Because as humans now, we all want to do everything from the sofa while the TV is on our mobile phone. We wanted to get everything done quickly. We're trying to move faster, or the phone rings out, or off peak times, you can't get the reservations department. So these are all very quick frustrations that can turn somebody from one property to another. So if the engagement and the communication is not looked into properly and managed properly and invested in properly, then you are potentially losing guests very quickly. You know, one of the things, and to throw a few figures out there, and we're looking at stats all the time. Since 2018, we've engaged with over 380 million chats globally, and what we've studied and what's come out is that 58% of those chats are off peak, which means we're on impulse. We're sitting in the evening and we think of Valentine's Day is coming up. I better look at this hotel. I better do this, or your Christmas Day, etc. But even more interesting, out of the 58%, 40% of that is a request on price. So you can't get that off peak. So the other frustrations can be language barriers. So we've made sure we have over 40 languages on our chatbot available globally to so that we can ease that stress before it happens. Packages on the OTA versus the direct communication with guest communication. We want to make sure that the guest can automatically see what packages, and that links in with the other speakers about upsell. The package is a massive upsell. It's a direct upsell, etc. So we want to make sure that we are able to present, or allow the hotel to present, that in the format of the initial guest communication. And you know, somebody touched on a point as well, I think it was Danica, about the operations being involved in this as well. But there's also a marketing side. So there's different departments within the hotel that should be completely focused on the guest communication. And as a result of that, then you should ease the pressure and make it easier for the guest to communicate with the hotel. So with our end at Ask Suite ends, the chatbot it's a 24/7 model. And once it's preloaded with all the eventual inquiries from the hotel, it means that the guest can get involved 24/7. Once we have the integration with the booking engine, they can make the booking, they can go through and make it happen. We can transfer that to a live agent at any time. So it's that next stage. So once we've chosen the hotel, once that interaction can happen, then at least it can be taken to the next stage. So it's a really key point. And just one other stat that's really interesting that I forgot to read out, actually two, is that out of those percentages I was giving, 15% are from Instagram, which is really interesting. And those numbers are rising. And what we project now for 2022 is that the social media platform of WhatsApp will be the key communication tool. And just to finish on that, and it's a really it's a study that was just published on by HubSpot, a social media trend for 2022, is that, and I quote, "Social selling will simplify the customer journey. As the pandemic drives more consumers to buy online, this trend will look deeper into how the social platforms are tracking and tackling social selling, and how its demand will grow in the future." So I think that's a real telltale saying that the hotels must invest on the initial pre-stay communication. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, David, for all the information. Somebody would like to add something on David. I have some echo with somebody's computer. Okay. Somebody want to say something or add something for David, or I move to the next question? You, Danica, please go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly as well. When we talk about channels, it's really important to think about where your guests come from, because certainly in Europe, WhatsApp's by far the number one messaging channel. But you know, WhatsApp's banned in China. So it's really important, if the Chinese guest is an important segment, you have WeChat and offer all different channels. And what we've seen as well is the OTAs. So, you know, guest behavior. I mean, when you book a hotel on booking.com, what tends to happen? You book 6 hotels at the same time, you know, free cancellation, you send a message, and whoever gets back to you is who gets that booking. And what we've seen is, unfortunately, in the industry, up to 50% of OTA inbound messages go unanswered. So that's something that hoteliers really need to look at as well, in terms of staying competitive and keeping your market share. So again, it's tough for hoteliers because we're talking about booking Instagram, WeChat, WhatsApp, but that's the reality of the guests, and that's what the guests are demanding. So it's really important that as a hotelier, you know, the challenges that guests have pre-stay is give me the information I'm looking for. What we see with COVID is, you know, so many hotelier websites haven't updated their COVID information. It's still all restrictions, restaurants are closed, social, when that's not the case in the property anymore. You know, we've moved on. So make sure your OTA listings, your website, everything is up to date. That reflects the current state of your property today, not last year, because you're losing bookings to your competitor down the road. So yeah, it's an important one when you think of messages to try and look at that full omni approach of where your guests are talking to and what their preferred channels are.
Thank you so much, Danica. So, ladies, gentlemen, let's move to the next question. And the next question is for, let me check here on my notes if I don't lose it again. No, sorry. Chris Alexandre, CEO and founder of GuestRevu. Chris, thanks to be here. Let's go with your question. So, what effect has COVID had on the importance of communication and reputation in hospitality. Or we repeat the question, what effect has COVID had on the importance of communication and reputation in hospitality? All yours, my friend. Chris?
Thanks, Vinny. I think this is, I think the impact of this is just, it's continuing to evolve as we go through this. And I think a lot of what all of the panelists have spoken about today covers a lot of different areas here. But again, if we go back to what we were discussing earlier, I think at this point in time, the competition amongst hoteliers for the guests who are traveling is absolutely brutal, because there is incredible rates being offered. There are lots of properties available. The occupancies are low. So it is right now a very difficult or a great time for those guests who are traveling, because they have so much opportunity and so much choice in terms of doing that. And I think that the importance of the reputation, as we said before, has become absolutely critical. It's not a nice to have anymore, it's a must have. And I think part and parcel of that is the communication that goes along with it. So we've chatted about the pre-stay, about the information, about getting out there early, about being attentive and about being responsive to people, because that's how they're judging you, much as Danica has said earlier. It's you have an audience of one. So they don't know what's happening, whether you've got, 50,000 other clients talk to you, other potential guests. There's one, and they're very demanding, and they're very, the expectations are important. So the pre-stay information that gets sent out, capturing data, understanding what it is that they would like, and making sure that you're aligned on your expectations is critical. We do that through the use of surveys and through the use of well-timed surveys, so that you are actually getting that information back and not just going through the process. It's about actually getting the information. And if you didn't get the response, make sure there's enough time for you to send a reminder, or so that you can capture it. And actually, if you get something coming in, then you can make plans to do that, whether it's about arranging for transport from an airport, or booking a restaurant, or removing alcohol out of a minibar, whatever it happens to be. I think that's critically important, making sure that you understand that expectation and can communicate it internally so that you can deliver on it. The in-stay, depending on how long people are staying and what's happening, that communication becomes critically important, because you want to fix those issues while the guests are still there. You don't want to have to be trying to write management responses on TripAdvisor or somewhere else to start apologizing. If you can fix that, and I'm sure for all the hoteliers out there, I remember one anecdote I learned some time ago was that, and I'm not sure how true it is, but I remember someone saying to me that Mercedes-Benz used to build defects into their cars, because 3 months after you bought a Mercedes-Benz, when the windscreen wipers stopped working and you made the call, and they had somebody out there in 30 minutes and it was fixed and working, that the clients came away thinking that is the most unbelievable service we've ever had. I am always going to buy Mercedes-Benz. So making sure that you can get to those guests' problems, or be slightly anticipate what they are, look at what's going on, and be able to sort those problems out before the guest actually leaves is going to pay dividends for you. In-stay communications and those surveys are critical. And then at the end of the stay, post-stay, I think I'm pretty sure Danica gets the same thing. We always get a question about response rates for surveys, and what's good and what's not. Everybody wants 100%. You don't need to have 100%. If there is a trend developing in your property, if there is a particularly noisy room or a bad piece of equipment or something, you don't need 100% of reviews to tell you that, or surveys to tell you that. You can very quickly see trends that are developing, whether guests are happy or unhappy and what particular area it's doing. And being able to respond to those surveys on the public platforms is also absolutely critical. Manager responses are the right way to do this. But if you can get your experience correct all the way through, then you're not dealing with negative reviews on public platforms at the end of it. You're dealing with positive ones at the end of it. So the communication has become critically important. I think we're noticing a resurgence in QR codes for surveys, because I think it's all to do with the contactless, and people don't want to touch anything or stand there and ask. They don't have time. So the QR codes were actually seeing a resurgence in happening. For a while, I think QR codes were developed in 1974, I think, or something like that. We were having this discussion the other day, which is a long time ago. I think it was a kind of a different format of QR code, but it's evolved into that. And then it came out, and it was a big flash, and then everyone was really keen on them, and then it seemed to die away. We're seeing the resurgence coming back in. So I think as far as the communication is concerned, it's a whole process all the way through, and you need to be consistent in that and what you're doing. And with all the staff shortages, the technology is the only way that you can make that work functionally at the moment. And we're all getting better at what we do. Everyone around this panel, all the software that you use, all the developers, and the ideas and the innovation that's going on, it's constantly getting better. And if you're not with that, you're going to get left behind. You cannot run things, hotels without technology anymore. In fact, a lot of the time the technology is actually running the hotel, aside from the personal service and the staff that are involved. But it is efficient, and so we would say that the importance, the communication is critical, but the importance of getting good reviews and managing your reputation, having your finger on the pulse is what people expect. You need to have that today. Just the sheer volume of reviews that are being collected and left every day. You cannot go to multiple platforms and keep yourself abreast of that. It just nobody has the time anymore to do it. And there's no reason to when, we have tools that are able to do that and highlight it and use, the sentiment, or use the, automated scoring, or use the intelligent logic behind what's going on to be able to highlight stuff so that you can deal with that. So equally, we do tickets and case management. That's the way to do it. It keeps everybody who is working in a remote fashion up to date with everything that's going on, and everything is at your fingertips. So I hope that helps to give you some kind of idea of how we have seen. I was saying earlier that last year when we did this, had this discussion, and looking at what hoteliers were facing, it was, we said that people are going to have to become more innovative. They're going to have to embrace the technology and figure out ways to deal with that. And like we said earlier, we've seen a lot of that happen. There has been development from our side as well. And I just think that technology has become even more critical in a hotelier's life, and understanding that and how it's going to work to deliver the value for them.
Thank you so much, Chris, for all the insights. I want you to add something here. Not add, I want to request, as I will profit, we have 3 companies here. We have 2 CEOs, the Director of Engagement of Review Pro, the CEO, that's Deepak from KePSLA, the CEO, Chris Alexandre from GuestRevu. If we look, you already talked about the reviews, but if we look 2022, 2023, we don't have any, I don't have a crystal ball here. Oh, let's say what's going to happen. I don't know. I know that nobody knows at the end, because we expected don't have a 4th wave. Right now, Austria is closed, and maybe the press is pressure too much to German to close. So if we, I think nobody expect this. You expect a 4th wave? I don't think so. Myself, I didn't expect anymore. For example, I'm still Brazil. I didn't start traveling yet. But how will be the reviews that you already have Review Pro KePSLA? How it's what's going on the review side? But what do you project for 2022? Do you think something will change, or even the softwares will need to implement something else, or how is the near future for those? Chris, Danica, Deepak, everybody, Erick, Ramona, David. Who starts? Somebody want to answer? Nobody?
Yeah, I
Go ahead, Chris.
I
Go
can
ahead.
start with this. I think Danica said it earlier. I think 10 years ago we were talking to hoteliers and we're saying it's really critical to look at what your guests are saying. Ultimately, these are the people who are bringing the money into your hotel. These are the people who are paying your salaries. And if you're not listening to what they're telling you, or if you're not asking them, or if you're not making some kind of effort to gather that feedback and to understand what the experience was like, then they're not coming back and you're going to lose that. And 10 years down the line, we're still doing the same thing. I think there are areas that have become more important and some areas that have been highlighted more than others. I think that will continue. I think the world is going to learn to adapt and live with COVID. I don't think COVID is going away for anytime soon. I think we're all going to have to adapt to it. Perhaps there will be other medical things that will help us to quickly get over that. But the world, I think we are, a year from now, 2 years from now, there will be slight changes and slight tweaks in terms of what we're saying, but it will still be the fundamental message that what your guests are telling you is absolutely critical for the survival of your property and the growth of your property.
Thank you so much, Chris. Danica?
Yeah, I just saw Alan's comment here about staff shortages are detrimentally impacting the perception.
I'm going to read it. I'm going to proceed it. So Alan Young from UK is requesting us. Staff shortages are diametrically affecting the perception of hotel service.
Yeah.
Doesn't there need to be more than the adoption of technology to fix this issue? Thank you, Alan.
So that, and I was just about to say that when you talk about from a guest perspective, what we're seeing at Review Pro now, and certainly, unfortunately, what's going to come is the concept of staff shortages. So it's no longer, people aren't really talking about, I'm talking about Q3 2021. People's in the semantics about hygiene and safety have actually decreased significantly globally. And actually, we're starting to see a sharp rise in mentions or negative mentions regarding staff semantics in terms of lack of resources, staff shortages. So this is something that's beginning to come through as a trend in online reviews globally. It's especially in Europe and the US in the same. And from our client side, I went to stay in a London hotel and I booked the hotel purposely for the bar because London bars closed too early for me. And I checked in and she said, oh, sorry, just to let you know, the bar's closing at 9 p.m. this evening because we have no staff. So that is the reality, certainly in Europe and the US that hoteliers are faced with. So how does your guest communication now completely have to evolve to deal with that? So we did a webinar yesterday talking about staff shortages, and we had 2 hoteliers online giving their advice of how do you be transparent and authentic, and say, listen, we're running at 20% capacity, and still give the guests the confidence that you're going to be able to give them what they're expecting because of the rates that you're still charging. And that's where technology has to come in to support that. We've seen from studies, for example, a chain of 32 city centre hotels around Europe, all of their inbound messages, whether that's pre, in-stay, post, throughout the guest journey, 63% derived from the same 8 questions. What time's check-in? How far's the airport? Do you have Wi-Fi? So why would you, when you're running at 20% capacity at your reception staff, would you have your receptionist answering the same question over and over? When technology such as AI and a chatbot can alleviate that and free up your staff to do what they need to do. Now, what's interesting is actually we talk about the guests, but we have to talk about our staff. How do we keep our receptionist happy? How do I stop her from leaving because she's had 5 job offers from other hotels today? You need to make sure that you've got processes. Everybody knows what they're doing. There's no confusion. There's no running around like headless chickens. You need to look after your staff and that's naturally going to feed through to the guest experience. So, you know, we're talking very much about guest experience, guest satisfaction, guest communication. But I actually think as well what's really important is staff retention, staff motivation, and staff communication to make sure that they can deliver the guest experience. And that's where technology has to, like what Chris said, alleviate and take on some of the shortages where we just don't have the workforce, whether that's because of Brexit or COVID, whatever. This is where we're at, and it's, you know, and it's I don't know if that trend has hit APAC and Brazil and LATAM yet, but it certainly is rife in the US and Europe, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Danica. Somebody else?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to your question and answer that, right?
Sure.
What do you see are the trends that will happen going forward? And yeah, without looking at a crystal ball. So one of the things that we are seeing, and I wanted to cover this a little later as well, was we have the advantage of building kind of a hybrid business here. There is a SaaS model, and then there is enough support that we could use human intelligence to kind of augment the SaaS model. So one is, as a reputation management company, we are not just focused on looking at reviews that are coming on a bunch of websites. So, you know, there is a finite number of websites or locations where reviews are coming, or your surveys are bringing, etc. Today, the social media is become larger, much more noisier, and there is opinions coming in different places. So there is merit probably going forward for us to figure out, is it just those 120 websites that we are going to pick up data from, or is it those 4 or 5 social media sites that we are going to look at data from? But there are many other sources that we could look at, and those could also be as useful and helpful. And I think that's what I see as a trend going forward that's going to happen, that we will have to have all ears and all eyes open and not just focus on the booking and the Expedia and the Trip and the Google kind of places. Is my crystal ball gazing.
Thank you so much. Somebody else, or we go to the next question? I have 2 questions more. We are in the limit of our time, so I will go to the question if nobody don't mind. Awesome, great. Let's go. Let's go to the next question. Thanks for the public. We already got more than 250 persons live, so thank you so much. Thank you, YouTube. On the others, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, people don't access. We're great on YouTube. Awesome. So let's go with the next question to the founder and CEO of KePSLA, Mr. Deepak Mavinkurve. Welcome, Deepak, again. So the question for you is the following one. Just one second. So what is the relevance of data and how can it be used to improve guest experience? I will repeat the question. What is the relevance of data and how can it be used to improve guest experience? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm a data guy, and I while I hated math in school and college, I've fallen in love with it later on in life. So yeah, data is something that turns me on. There are let me break this into 3 problems, and I'll try and start from a very basic problem and then go into looking at how data can get complicated and how that can be used. So the first thing that I can remember that as we were, I was in the banking sector at some point in time, and we were told of this very interesting phrase which says paralysis by analysis, right? We end up a lot of times looking at too much data, not knowing what to do, or we don't know how to kind of understand what's the right data to focus on. And that's kind of standard in our industry, because today you see that technology for most large hotels, small hotels, is still fragmented. So there is data that's at the POS, that's data at the PMS, that's CRM, there is us companies giving some data. So this is all for a medium-sized hotel, which probably does not have a strong data analyst, etc. Is a challenge to get this siloed data into one place. So it's really important in phase 1 to understand how you're going to pull those data from legacy systems that you have and create in some sense what could be data hubs or data lakes or whatever. I don't want to use very complex words to scare hoteliers away, but some place where all of this data can be available in one place, and then the management at the senior level, at the mid-office level, etc., is able to sit down and say, hey, there is this whole mountain of numbers and data that's here. We want to ignore 80% of it or 90% of it, and just want to focus on 5 or 6 or 7 of these key points and ignore the rest of it. So for an organization, much so for a hotel or anybody, to come to that crux of saying that this is among all of this data, these are the critical data points that we are going to track in across everything, not just in customer experience, but across everything, is the most important thing according to me. So guest experience starts with that. Am I capturing the right data? Is it the right quality of data that I'm looking at, and ignoring what is not relevant? So it's not just that there are 1,000 reviews or 10,000 reviews. Does it make sense? It's not about numbers, but are you capturing the right data? That's kind of the first thing. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is I go back to I remember a Galileo Galilei comment where he said math is a language of the gods. So mathematics is simple because there is no subjectivity when you put numbers in, right? 60% occupancy means something, 80% acceptance means something, 20% dislike means something. So you can't have a second opinion on that. However, data usually breaks into two parts. One is typically what is a quantitative data, which is like what I mentioned. It comes in numbers and percentage and easy to identify, etc. But then today, like I just mentioned a couple of minutes back, the inflow of qualitative data has become so large that it is overbearing at some point in time. Now the challenge for hoteliers or anybody in the data space is, how do you look at that qualitative data and are able to correlate it with numbers? So how do you quantify the qualitative data? So if somebody says the breakfast was good, what does that mean to the top line and the bottom line? If somebody said there was the taps were leaking, what does it mean to the top line and bottom line? What does it mean in terms of numbers and scores and stuff like that? And once you're able to put that quantification in one place, that's probably when things become easier. And I'll give you an example of some stuff that we did, and it became very interesting at some point in time. So here's a hotel. Let's say they have a coffee shop with them, and the coffee shop, let's say, is got a 7 on 10 rating, for example. Now, the coffee shop has numbers that it needs to go back to its management and give. So let's say it's doing, for example, $20,000 worth of P&L profit at the end of every month, for example. Now, as a data guy, if I were to go to the barista there or the manager and say, hey, you're 7 on 10, you should get to 9 on 10 or 8 on 10 in terms of what people are talking about you in a TripAdvisor or whatever. It doesn't resonate with me as the manager, because I don't know, what does 8 on 10 mean? What does 9 on 10 mean to me? Now, if I as data person have the ability to go to him and say, you know what, 7 on 10 means $20,000 of P&L. 6 months back when you were 6.5 on 10, you were at $15,000 or whatever that number is. So 8 on 10 means this and 9 on 10 means this. So that's how you can correlate that number to a bottom line or a top line, is probably what's going to excite the staff, the management, etc., to make sure that they are tracking that number effectively. And to add to that, then again, as a data analyst, you go back and tell him, hey, you know what, your for example, the latte that you make is giving us there's a 30% margin on that, but the pumpkin latte is got a 50% margin on that. Now, why don't you try and sell more of the 50% margin product rather than a 30% margin product? So the question then I have is, how can you use the data that you have to start promoting a product which is, a 50% margin over a 30% margin? And can you use, guest reviews, feedbacks that's coming, etc., to build a brand around the pumpkin latte and make sure that it becomes important and make sure that it rises up? And that's going to be a slow and a gradual process when you start asking the right questions to the customer who have probably tasted that, and making sure that those go right up to the advocacy of important places, etc., and you start building a brand around, so your customers get to know that, hey, there is this awesome cafe in this restaurant, in this hotel. They are 9 on 10 or 8 on 10. They have a great coffee shop, and in the coffee shop, the pumpkin latte is great, so you should probably buy that. So here is what I think quantitative and qualitative data, when combined together, can add to the top and bottom line of the business. And this is what hoteliers need to probably understand. And the third and the most important thing is like what we've been speaking all this time, specifically from a guest experience perspective and how we are able to drive guest experience, etc. I go back to what do we do typically as a business, is that we are giving to our customers a bunch of analysis which is largely very descriptive, which says that, hey, 100 people came in here, this is what they looked at, and here is what they are talking about. So here is somebody who's saying that whatever, your bed was squeaking, or the AC was not proper, and all of that kind of stuff. So we have mastered to a large extent in our space to talk about how descriptive can we get with giving the data that's coming from the customer. Now, it would make sense if we can use that and get into a predictive analysis basis. So can we be able to put all of these numbers together and say that this results in something which is positive, neutral, negative going forward? Is there a possibility of putting inferral analysis on the data to make sure that there are inferences that can be made from a hotel's perspective, rather than just focusing on the descriptive analysis that we are giving? So this, according to me, I remember Edward Deming's dialogue. Edward Deming is the father of the whole automobile industry in Japan, where he brought the TQM, the total quality management, where he said, something to the effect of, in God we trust, but everyone else brings data to the table. So with these analysis that you can put together, there is a better opportunity for you to show profit and make large profits. So, I mean, those were my kind of 3 limited points in terms of how can you not just look at data because you're collecting it so often, but collect the right data. The second point is then be able to put them together so that all of them make sense. And third, and last but not the least, is not just give numbers that are there, but also go 2 or 3 steps ahead to give what will happen because of this data in the near future and in the post future.
Thank you, Deepak. We have a question from Andrew's Remakis. Thank you, Andrew, to be with us here. So here's a question: how will AI impact the guest communications of the future?
I think
it's for you and for everybody here.
Can I just make a point to add to
what Deepak was saying?
Sorry, Andres, we will answer your question, Andres, I promise. So hold that thought. But when we talk I just wanted to say that when we talk about data relevance in the guest journey and the guest experience, like, we have to remember, we're hoteliers, we're not data analysts. So our job as technology suppliers is to make it super easy for you as a hotel to understand what's happening. I did a data analysis this morning for one of our clients, 62 hotels, and within 3 seconds, we saw issue with rooms, negative issues with rooms across all of their hotels. The reason was because of booking, and then actually with the surveys, we have their PMS data, and we could see it was coming from a certain room category. So within 3 seconds, that hotel can get to that level of data, and that's what we need to give our clients. You know, we do not have time running hotels to be able to cipher through all of this fantastic data. I need to be able to, as a GM, wake up, look at my mobile app, know exactly what's going on to get on with improving it. So I think it's really important that we make data easy to understand and get within seconds. So I wanted to add that point, but we'll go back to Andreas
For sure.
and Jairus's.
Totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. Let's go with Andrews Remekis with his question. How will AI impact the guest communication of the future? Who will be? Nobody.
I think it's impacting. I think it's impacting already. I think I'm going to talk about data. Sorry, Deepak. And it's so that it is impacting, and I think those numbers across the board from a data perspective are increasing. So I think the impact will be huge. But I think one point that I was going to comment on earlier, and it's part of the answer to that is being careful going into the future, because one of the questions that we come across all the time to us is our product trying to replace a human, and it's a really interesting topic and ongoing one, and we, you know, our standpoint is that these are aids, these are products to help, these are not meant to replace. But I think with the technology companies all moving, you know, so fast with AI, that the products themselves will become just much more of an aid to help the hotels, will be my opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Just remind Andrews, everything you do online right now, you have AI. Everything. If you search for a hotel, you have AI. If you search for an airplane, you have AI.
Yeah.
If you have, and everything you do. When you search for a Coca-Cola or which restaurant I will go, here you have AI. And everything we do at the moment impact the guest. And if not the guest for a hotel, even in any kind of sale that will be done online, you have AI. For a long time already. At least for the last 13, 14 years, you have AI in most everything. The only thing that hoteliers is still against apply or invest money on those, and really marketing. And marketing is very difficult to make them understand how it's important to. But it's not marketing the topic here. Sorry, coming back. I'm here again. Ramona, please.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that eventually that's also why we are here. Now we are just presenting something that we are kind of taking it as a status quo, right? But it is actually something for the future. This evolves like everything else, and obviously COVID made it quicker. But it is actually an evolution, and this is why technology comes in place, and we need to get used to it. And I think also this is the part of it, to get used to manage so many things just through the AI, through the machine learning, through technology, and not only to the member of staff. So definitely, we are here for a little bit in the present, but with the voice of the future, I would say.
Thank you, Ramona. Deepak, please.
I was just trying to kind of extend what I was trying to say and answer Denise as well. Is that yes, while we are building a SaaS product, yes, you will end up building cookie cutter solutions for everybody, and that's easy. I mean, that's the way SaaS works anyway. But I think to build stickiness with customers, and I mean, at scale, there is, like you all have scale, maybe it's difficult, but at scales that I think hotels like to work, if there is a hybrid combination of a DIY plus a do with you model where analysts can bring out these kind of solutions, I think that would be much more important in holding hands of small, medium hotels. Yeah, of course, there's a cost to it, and some of them will pay, some of them don't pay. But that's where I think we will add true value rather than giving standard cookie cutter solutions to customers. And that's what we've been practicing here. Probably we can afford to do that at the scale we are working on.
Thank you too much, Deepak. Yes, Danica, please.
Sorry. How will AI impact guest communications of the future? For me, It's so exciting. We're living in like super cool times in terms of technology providers, because as an ex-marketing manager at a hotel chain, guest communication always sat in marketing, right? It was always about communication strategies. But now AI has closed the bridge with ops. So it's all about guest experience. So guest communication is about how are you going to use AI to make sure I'm happy in my stay. And that's really, really cool. So for me, AI is closing the gap and making guest communications, putting guest experience as the main objective for whatever that guest communication is, whether it's pre-stay, whether it's pre-stay revenue driven, or whether it's post-stay to get a review. It's like, how is that going to improve the guest experience? And AI is the bridge that closes that gap, which is fun.
Thank you so much, Danica. So we go to the last question. We are finishing. We are really late with the timing. Sorry for the panelists, but it has been a so great discussion. We got a lot of public during the entire session. We still have online 150 people watching to us after 2 hours consecutive, and we impact more than 4,000 people already. Okay, just to let you know. So let's go to the last question, and after that we have a question from Mateo Bilbao. But before that, let's go with Ramona. Ramona, thank you to be here again. Ramona, Sales and Customer Success Manager at iTranslate. So the question for you is, how can hotels use technology to offer their guests the most comfortable and direct way of communication? I will repeat the question. How can hotels use technology to offer their guests the most comfortable and direct way of communication? Before you start, remind the public, this is the last question. If you want to set your questions, do it now. Because after the question of Ramona, if we don't have questions, we will finish. So thank you. And Ramona, it's all yours. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. So yeah, well, there are many ways and reasons that that customers communicate with the business, right? It can be through the email, chat, or help desk, the most direct way. But as we spoke already, the third-party feedbacks and review platforms are now the most common ones. There also are many reasons that the guests would engage and communicate with hotels. But I will take as an example the reviews, and since we are speaking about reputation management and we debated so much about reviews, I would take that example and look also at the guest journey. Mainly because this begins with checking a review in order to make a choice, and it ends with writing a review when we want to share the experience we had. So now, from my experience, like a great majority of guests write a review either when they are unsatisfied or want to raise a complaint, or when they are very happy with the stay, with the service. In any of the cases, this involves a great level of emotional feedback rather than in more the objective or a functional one. So in these situations, a guest needs all the facilities and tools to communicate with the hotel quickly and comfortably, and also providing these multi-language translation tools in the channels. It is for nowadays it is a game changer. More than this is just there is no guest would spend time or effort trying to make a review, for example, in English, when this is not their native language, right? Especially in this emotional state. We all know that when we are getting emotional, we want to express ourselves. Writing in our own language comes more naturally, and this is what we also need to provide to our guests. This is also to avoid not receiving the positive feedback. Also, I found out that, I guess you experts do, that when the customer hasn't got the right tools and they don't have the skills, in this case, the language skills, they generally opt for not giving the feedback. And that's a pity not having it. There are also different tools available, such as we all know mobile applications, the translator devices for in-house operational support, or integrated applications with the hotel systems. And this is the case where I would like to mention that there are these the APIs that we can use. And this could be connected to the hotel platform, for example, or integrated with other computer programs that the hotel may have. And this basically allows guests to communicate with the hotel in real time in multiple languages. Of course, this can be applied also not only, as we said before, to the guest part, but also to the staff. This enabled the hotel staff also to reply in these languages if this is requested by the guests. Not to supplement, but also complement the service. And that's why it is important to give this tool in hands to the guests, but also to the member of staff. Of course, as I said before, it was an example because we were speaking about reviews, about this comment, but this can be applied literally to everything, like to special needs that the guests may have, to the I don't know, for example, when they are making the reservations, when they have a special request during the booking, through the hotel chat, through the help desk, it can be integrated in every space where communication with the client, the guest is needed. And I think this will have a really massive impact on the guest experience and therefore on the hotel's reputation. Now to quickly conclude, providing all the channels in multiple languages to the guests leads to a quicker response rate from the hotel side, and to more guests getting in touch with the hotel directly, which would definitely enhance the guest experience, and in the end, will have a great positive impact on the hotel reputation.
Thank you so much, Ramona. So we are turned to the end. We have just one question from Mateo Bilbao we're going to answer. After that, each of the participants will have 2 minutes to conclude and to say goodbye. So let's go with Mateo, and thank you all to be here, of course. So Mateo Bilbao, do an easy question to answer in my point of view. How will companies guarantee the protection of users' privacy?
I can maybe, go for it. Ramona, you can start this time.
No, I mean, it isn't somehow easy. It is a really big topic now. And why I laughed is because, for us, it is actually a topic, the privacy. Because, when we do translation, we are really playing very, very hard with sensitive data, with lots of information. And obviously, that goes from the hotel, from the chatbot, from the other channels to us and back translated. So we actually handling everything. It is a quite of a topic, but it is also, on the other hand, nowadays we do have a lot of regulations that protects us generally, and then I guess every software, every technology provider should have in place some agreement, some privacy agreement. We do have, for example, a privacy agreement that we share with our clients, customers, just before we sign up everything. So it works that way. Then obviously also we do not keep data, at least not at iTranslate. We don't keep data. We work as a black box, so data is never stored. So we do take care quite a lot of the data privacy.
Erick?
Yeah, I mean, no, we can all sign agreements, and then you forget about the agreement. An agreement is just, it's important, but it can also be just an agreement. What I realized, and I've never been a security specialist, like in my maybe in my past life, but you don't do business with customers who knows what they're doing unless you are really on top of your data privacy. And what I've really tried to instill at OAKY is like this whole mindset around customer data. We do a lot of, for example, phishing campaigns to our staff every year, where I look at like what are the tools that we're using every day, and then I create fake emails, send it out to everyone, and see how many clicks on those fake emails, and then let them know, because it's so easy to get hacked nowadays that I mean, it's impossible to have full protection, but you need to create some sort of a mindset where you're always aware of that this is a possibility and a threat, and you need to used basically, I think ultimately it's all coming down to logical sense. If you have processes in place, that helps a ton, but it's also about keeping it top of mind. I think it's the biggest protection that you can have. And for the love of God, don't use one password for multiple websites.
I mean, my head of data and security will kill me for saying this, but I think just choose a bunch of letters, chuck them together, and make sure like you follow them, because it's like you've got to be GDPR if you're in Europe, you've got to be CDPA if you're in America, and it's like basically every single acronym you can think of, there's 15 different versions of them, and as a technology provider, you obviously have to be compliant to all of them around the world, which is
Thank you, Danica. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for all the attendance. It's been an outstanding panel. A lot of people coming and going, and a lot of people staying. We for the last 2 hours, we always was in 150, 160. So it's awesome. So really happy about that also. Another good thing about travel tech. If this means that we're just growing and growing, that's a good thing. Thank you for all the panelists. Thank you for all the attendance. Today is going to be the last day for the forum. So we have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Last year we did an entire week. Has been a long year, so we try to put all the panels, 2 panels per day, and we'll be back tomorrow for the entire day, 10 a.m. Central Europe time till 18 hours Central European time, with all the presentations of software presentations from our sponsors. So you'll be able to go to traveltechspace.com or traveltech.space. You can go to the agenda and you can check all the presentations we're going to have tomorrow like this. You can perfect and also be there. We're going to come next year again. So I'll repeat again, March. We're going to have first week of March. We're going to have US and Canada. Brazil and Portugal is going to be in May. APAC is going to be in July, September, Latin and Spain. And then we're going to finish the next year with EMEA. And if we grow as sponsors and we make the amount necessary, we are looking to have potential travel tech on Barcelona. And we are checking Barcelona and another few cities of Europe. If that is possible, we're going to do it an hybrid event with a stand. Let's see if that can be done. I'm chasing that. It's a lot of effort. It's very difficult to do it, but we'll try. We'll give our best. However, we need sponsors to still supporting us as we provide as educational content. Is very huge, rich, and outstanding during the entire year. We have very difficult and different panels during this year, and we will open the travel tech even more also for the other players on the industry. So thank you for all the sponsors that make this possible. It's a lot of them. For us, it's a lot of compared from the first year. We're in the second year. So thank you to everybody, Ideas, Libra, Review Pro, Royback, Yield Planet, the Hotels Network, RM Hub, Profit Room, Hub OS, Book Online Now, Book Assist, Infor, Expedia Group, Revamp, RMS, Ray Tiger, Simple Hotel, and Sabre. Thank you for the support for this event and for those as annual sponsors. Thank you so much. So right now, I will pass in 2 minutes to David to say goodbye. David, Director of Sales for EMEA for Ask Suite. David, thank you so much for all the insights. Thank you to be here. Here you have 2 minutes to conclude and then say goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinicius. Yeah, that 2 hours flew by. So yeah, it's been really interesting. And as I said at the start, it's such an interesting and hot topic, the whole guest communications. And the one thing I've taken from today is the absolute ecosystem of all our products. Everything's integrated at some point. And I actually put myself in the space of a hotelier if I was listening to this, and you just feel like, oh my God, there is so much to think about. And that automatically just links to the recruitment issues that are out there. So hopefully we keep moving out of the pandemic so that they can focus more on getting the right staff, and then enabling the right communication tools that they can, get the guests to fully engage, etc. So no, thank you again, and it was great to be part of this panel. And thanks a lot, and thanks to everyone for watching. Thank you.
Thank you too much, David. Also for the attendants, remember you can go to traveltechspace.com or traveltech.space. You can go to our virtual stand. We also have a fair online that it's online the entire year, where you can go directly, check the solutions for each company, and then you can book a direct presentation with the companies. So go there. We have a stand. We have an entire year stand. So if you didn't check before, you can check it now. So Danica Smith, Review Pro, Director of Engagement. Thank you to be here, Danica. Very glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, and to Ramona, Chris, David, Deepak, and Eric. I wish we could all continue this conversation around a bar, and I'm sure we would be talking all night. But I think to summarize for me, and I understand it can be super overwhelming for hoteliers, but really the future of guest communication, it's, for me personally, it's not about marketing. It's about guest experience, and putting the guest experience at the heart of everything you do, including guest communications. When you look at your guest communication strategy, you really need to think about how is it going to support the guest throughout the guest journey. Don't forget about in-stay, and like I said earlier, about being able to operationally and confidently deliver those in-house requests or pre-stay requests. And, just being proactive with guest communication and making sure it's about creating memorable touch points, and improving the guest experience, whether that's with technology or whether that's through really cool sort of upselling strategies. It's all about happy guests, and, and then you complete the 360-degree cycle. Happy guests equals positive online reviews, and then it begins again for the future guests. So, it was a really exciting panel, and I think it reflects the exciting, yes, it's a challenging year coming up, but there's a lot of good stuff for hoteliers to have fun with and get their teeth into, and make guests happy again.
Thank you so much, Danica, to be here. Thank you, Review Pro. Deepak, CEO and founder of KePSLA. Please, you have your 2 minutes to conclude.
Yep. Thank you. So it's 10:35 in my place. And I'm brimming with excitement because I loved the last couple of hours that we spent together, and I hope we continue to meet outside of this event. The one thing that I wanted to conclude as a thought was that I want to see our role, or at least my company's role, is not just being a mirror to what the guest experience is showing them, but also in some way to be able to close the loop, and how do we help close the loop. So with a voice of the customer, for example, we are building a voice of the employee. If the customer says, I have a problem with the front office, for example, and there's a bunch of data that proves that, I need to take the employee's point of view and see if we can marry those two and make sure that there is an L&D or a learning and development module that can come up immediately to close the loop. I think that's how we will build stickiness of technology with customers, by not just showing them what they want, but trying to close the loop. That's what we at least trying to do as a business as much as possible.
Thank you so much, Deepak. Thank you to be here. Welcome to Travel Tech. Chris, Alexandre, CEO and founder, GuestRevu. All yours, Chris.
Thank you, Vinny, and thanks to each one of the panelists as well. I think I agree. It's been a great session, and it's always an interesting topic for me. I love this. I love what I do. I love my job. I love the difference that we make for our clients, and it's so encouraging to see what happens. And thank you to Travel Tech. I think you built a great platform, Vinny, and your team, and long may it continue. And thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome. Ramona Cioba, iTranslate. Your turn.
Yeah, well, definitely. First of all, just thank you, Vinicius, for creating this platform and obviously giving us the chance to contribute in what we know, and also ourselves to learn from the others. And this is my thank you to all of you, because you are great experts. And obviously, apart from giving my words and my experience, I learned a lot from you today. So that's awesome. And yeah, regarding the great topic that we had to get today, of course, what I would say the hotelier should stay with, it's with this part of matching, not in one way the needs that the guests have, and try to be proactive, as Danica also said. Keep flexible and as much as they can adaptive, because this is part of it from now on and to the future. Technology is great, but it's also very quick, and we need to just take and capture what is the best for everybody and translate that to the needs of the guests and keep going.
Thank you, Ramona. Welcome. Erick Tengen, CEO and co-founder of OAKY. Thank you to be here, Erick.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I will keep it very short. I have a little boy who's going to go to bed in half an hour, so I want to see him before he goes to bed. Now, to everyone on the panel, thanks so much. I also just I love my job, and I think one of the best things about it is that there are so many nice people in our industry, and you are certainly a few of those. So it's inspiring, and thanks a lot. I also want to say, Vinny, I think I've been on a lot of panels where there's been only male, and I think that's so lame. It's so much more dynamic when we have gender neutrality, and that we had here. So Ramona and Danica especially.
Thank you.
Real
High five, Ramona.
Yeah.
Especially for me.
I did.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. We have a lot of people. Right now, they leave. Everybody just said goodbye to
That's
us.
okay. This was only for us.
It's only for us. Hey, thank you very much for everybody. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
See you next
Have a
year.
nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.